Not only has the popularity of video games soared in recent years, but the amount of realistic violence in them has as well. Violent video games first gained traction with the successes of popular first-person shooters in the early 1990s. These first-person shooters were clear indicators that games involving violence and shooting were popular among the public, as tens of millions of people had bought and played them. Since the 1990s, video game technology has improved dramatically. Modern video games now have massive worlds and very detailed graphics. These improvements in technology have made modern video games much more addicting and keep players entertained for long amounts of time. Recent tragedies have sparked a debate about whether or not violent video games play a beneficial role in our society. Many believe that violent video games play a crucial role in killings and bring the productivity of our society down as well. Yet, how accurate is this? Adversely, there is also evidence that disproves that video games cause violence, and actually provide many benefits to society instead. Violence around the world leads us to question whether or not violent video games should be banned in order to create a safer, more productive society.
Many believe that violent video games are highly addictive and can lead to a significant increase in aggression and have a great impact on one's actions. In a recent study, 20 people were randomly selected. 10 played a relaxing game and the other 10 played a violent game. After an hour of playtime, all who played the relaxing game helped when asked for help, while only 5 who played the violent game helped. Violent games can increase the player's anger and influence their actions in a negative way. They also make people less social. Furthermore, the director of games explains that violent video games give us experiences that we don't get to experience on a daily basis. All of the qualities that violent video games give us make them more compelling, which increase our addiction. An hour of playtime becomes 3 hours of playtime. So how exactly does the increase in addiction affect us? An increase in addiction of violent video games means an increase in playtime of violent video games. When aggressive actions are frequently repeated, the player starts to become more aggressive. A psychologist discusses that, as he states, if we practice aggressive ways of thinking, feeling, and reacting, then we will get better at those. Practicing aggressive acts more frequently makes you more aggressive. These aggressive actions can cause bad behaviors and potentially lead to real-world violence. Violent video games should be banned in order to prevent all of these things from happening.
Me and others believe that violent video games don't make violent kids or teenagers and shouldn't be banned. Video games can keep people inside playing video games, reducing the violence in the world. Charles Harrow describes the game Shadow of Rome, based in the era of watching people fight to the death or torn limb from limb, was considered entertainment for the entire family. Violence like that doesn't and can't happen today. There is no correlation to violent video games and real-world events. Many studies on the issue of media violence rely on measures to assess aggression that don't prove cause and effect. Federal criminal justices have proven that violence among teens has decreased since 1996, even as video game sales have increased throughout the years. Video game consumption is associated with a decline in youth violence rates. Results suggest that societal consumption of media violence is not predictive of increased societal violence rates. As well as not being associated with violence in the world, video games can also encourage teamwork and cooperation. A researcher from Texas Tech University discovered in 2015 that games like Halo and Time Splitters led to participants to treat each other, whether teammates or opponents, with surprisingly high degrees of decency. So banning violent video games wouldn't decrease the violence in teens or in the world. In a way, it makes the world better.
So, how do we fix this? There should be a time limit for violent video games so that way people don't play violent video games all day and become addicted to violence in real life. We want the time limit to be 2 hours per day no matter the age of the player. Thus allow people who like violent video games to still play and those against them to make sure people don't play violent video games all day and become addicted to violence and cause their behavior to become aggressive as well.